Hello and welcome to another Forge Alliance Forever cast. Alright, this time we're going to be covering off the Mephi versus Voodoo best of 7 that went down just a little while ago. We are a little bit delayed, but that's not a problem at all. It was pretty recent. And we're going to see how those two heavyweights managed to duke it out. So Mephi is obviously a pretty high rated player. You've probably seen him on the leaderboards and in tournaments. And Voodoo is coming back from a bit of a hiatus. He is a little bit rusty and he is trying to de-rust. So we're going to find out if Voodoo has got what it takes to knock Mephi, or whether he needs to do just a little bit more de-rusting. Alright, the games are all ready to go because we are not waiting on any replays today, which I'm very thankful for. So we are going to go ahead and jump straight into the action. Well, actually, I'll just tell you what this is first, because you may have read it in the title. It is a best of 7, so 1 versus 1, best of 7 matches between these two guys. No prize money here, I do not believe, but in any case, it should be a good watch, because these guys definitely know how to throw their weight around. Alright, the first match, round 1, let's get going. Right, here we are on Crossfire Canal, or as you may also know it, Pizza. Alright, let's get in and have a look at our two players and see how they're going to get on in the early stages. So we have got Mephi playing in his customary light green color that he just so ever dearly loves, and he is going Seraphim. So he's going to throw down that first land factory. It looks like he's going to go for 2 power generators, and then, well, he's a little bit light on power there to get that construction all the way, so I suggest he's probably going to be heading out for this hydro in the pretty near future. His opponent down in the bottom left corner of the map, Voodoo, has also picked Seraphim, has chosen his also fairly customary bright yellow color. He is going to throw down his first land factory, also going for 2 power generators before heading off and getting a little bit of mass and shifting up to try and also grab an air factory. So, both these guys getting second air. They will be on the mark, I think, with maybe a little bit of bomber, definitely a little bit of air power, and you know what? Probably some transports, because this map is absolutely brutal for expansion unless you can fly through the air, so they will be trying to get interceptors out to knock each other's transports out, as well as transport to get those ever so critical engineers all over the map. Alright, and interestingly enough, Voodoo has actually changed his name to Please Don't Hurt Me, perhaps just acknowledging that he is maybe a little bit rusty here, and he is asking, well, begging, you might even say, for a little bit of mercy from Mephi. So I don't know whether he's going to see any of that, but he may do. Alright, he is going to be throwing down, by the looks of it, 7 power generators, and that will be enough to get his air factory underway and producing. Mephi still a little bit lighter on the power there, just getting his 4th and just starting the 5th power generator now, and we can see a little cluster of engineers heading out towards that hydro, so that's probably going to be a little bit of a priority build for Mephi, and that's going to give him that extra little power bump. So he is starting that air factory. He only does have those 5 power generators in the way. Alright, we've got a decent little bit of expansion coming down here from Voodoo. He is going to send an engineer out. There's a decent bunch of manual reclaim dotted around the map there, so we can see he's been reasonably busy with his APM getting those engineering orders out. And now hopefully there isn't going to be a pesky bomber coming in and spoiling all of that for him. Of course, these guys are both, I was going to say Cybran, but there is no Cybran. They are both Seraphim. So that means that these guys have access to the annoying Tech 1 mobile artillery that floats, the Zooey. So those are going to probably make a pretty big feature in this map. I would suggest we'll probably see a stack of Zooeys trundling across the water and trying to hit each other. Alright, that hydro is completed there from Mephi. The engineers are breaking up, going their separate ways to continue on with their construction tasks, but that does put Mephi a little bit ahead. If we look at the scoreboard, we can see 220 mass per tick to a very odd number, 184. Now 160 is a much nicer number to see from Voodoo. It is, of course, 60 mass per tick, lower than Mephi though, so struggling a little bit though. He has got a few more mass extractors. We can see 15 mass per tick to, it was 11 to Mephi, but actually that may have been reclaimed. Yes, it is. So Mephi's still sitting on 11, so he will be relying on that transport getting out and managing to land, get those engineers in, and that will help his mass economy get underway, because he is just a little bit behind on expansion at the moment. We can see that Voodoo, he's actually got engineers all around grabbing reclaim across the map. He has actually got some guys heading across towards the other slices of the pizza already, and over this side as well. So a pretty good attempt at expansion there from land, but Mephi very, very quick with their transport and managing to get a bunch of engineers down. We have got 3 of the 5, and I'm not quite sure what the plan is with these other 2. Perhaps Mephi has just forgotten a little bit about that transport. There we go. He's going to send them over towards that hydro. So he obviously wants a little bit more power, so just prioritizing that. All right, these engineers are going to start building a land factory straight away. We've got radar going up, we've got a land factory going down, so trying to secure this expansion. Once he does get those things in place, especially that land factory, it's going to make it ever so much harder for Tech 1 bombers and a couple of Tech 1 units to dislodge. Right, Voodoo's starting to get across. He's got a very ambitious plan of 4 land factories with that little engineer there, so that's pretty ambitious indeed. He is going to have to watch out that nothing in the way of bombers, which is just coming out of the factory now, is going to take him out. Where is that bomber going to be headed? Well, actually, it looks like so far it's headed directly in the path of that interceptor, so that will not be too healthy for it if it does get hit. Alright, there are a few interceptors though here for Mephi. They're trying to chase down that scout. That is a futile exercise, but they may just be given some orders to turn around and take out this interceptor, otherwise they'll actually die to it. Now that has definitely happened because they're spinning around. They're going to take it out 2 versus 1. There's going to be a nice little play in the air there for Mephi, just securing it above his slices. Alright, this bomber is making its way across here, trying to look for some engineers that might already be on expansion duty. Now, of course, Mephi is expecting Voodoo probably put together a transport, and if that was the case, he probably would have a cluster of engineers on here already, but that actually is not the case at all. I don't think he's actually going to transport at all. No, there's still not even one. Well, there we go. It is just finished building. So he has finally got a transport out the door. That means he will be able to start getting some engineers across the map, and hopefully they're not going to get picked off by these bombers. This bomber so far not managing to do a heck of a lot, but at the current trajectory, it could come and put an end to that ambitious plan that we saw before for that lone engineer wanting 4 land factories all of its own. Is it going to get completed? It's going to be pretty close. There is another engineer right on hand. There we go. The factory is completed. In fact, the lack of radar coverage hurting Mephi just a little bit there. Here comes the scout now, so we can see there is a little bit of radar coverage coming over the top. He has now picked up the fact that there are some engineers here, spun around with that bomber, and he's coming back to try and take those guys out. Unfortunately, an interceptor in place for Voodoo, and he's going to take that bomber down after just a single kill. So definitely not paying off the amount of APM that consumed, and the amount of damage that it did, just not worth it. We do have an engineer drop now coming down onto this slice of the pizza for Voodoo, so he is going to start taking that, and we can see the lines of Zooey spam just trundling across the map, just trying to make life difficult for Mephi. So that is going to be very interesting. Of course, Mephi does have Zooeys to counter it, and once they hit landfall, they start hitting T1 tanks that Mephi can throw out of those factories, and those T1 tanks will be able to run circles around the artillery and make them have a very bad day. Right, this expansion is looking pretty secure here for Mephi. Not a lot of air control over the top, but he has got a couple of land factories down. It would take a pretty decent push from Voodoo, who is actually not even close to being ready to push on this side of the map, because he is way behind in expansion over here. He is just starting to get those core mixes here. Well, not way behind actually. Mephi's a little bit slower as well. He has walked his ACU all the way out, and it looks like he's actually planning on putting a point defense down, but he is only just now grabbing that last mix in the core there. It will mean that he's a little bit ahead, but it feels like Mephi should be a bit further ahead in mass than the scoreboard suggests. We're actually jumping up to 54 momentarily, and that was probably just a bunch of reclaim. Alright, we've still got these Zooeys. Looks like they're splitting up now, and there's a counter Zooey, and it just gets taken out there from Mephi. So a bit of Mephi versus Voodoo, Zooey on Zooey spam action, and well, nothing really coming of it so far. It looks like Voodoo is probably spreading those guys out. He's probably trying to go through and hope to pick up some engineers, pick up some outlying mass extractors, and just do a little bit of damage to the eco. He probably will be aware that he's a little bit behind because he's been over the top of Mephi's base. He has seen the amount of expansion that Mephi has got in place, the amount of troops and resources he's got embedded in that slice of the pizza is just looking a little bit ahead of what Voodoo has. Now, what is this play here? It is a little drop coming in. There are a bunch of Thams and a single Zooey by the looks of it, and a couple of Selens. They are going to come in and try and do a little bit of damage. Unfortunately for Voodoo, he only has Tech 1 engineers available down here, so he can only put up a Tech 1 point defense, which is not going to do particularly well against Zooey's. Unfortunately for Mephi, he's actually left all of those units in range of that point defense, and they are just going to get brutally taken out. Hardly any damage for all of that. He should have just rocked those guys back a little bit and managed to take the ranged attack without losing too many of those guys. Unfortunately, that is just a little bit of a wasted drop at this point. Another stream of Zooey's coming across here, trying to take out some more engineers. There was a factory, so Mephi just trying to establish a little bit more presence over here, but unfortunately, that is not actually going to come off, I don't believe, because those Zooey's are in there. The Mephi's ACU, he could actually move to intercept, and that is exactly what he's doing. I did think he was going to leave it and just try and take it out with some tanks, but he's actually got nothing in the area, absolutely nothing up here. He would have to try and reclaim. He does have a transport on hand though, that could be handy for dropping some troops in to deal with the Zooey problem. Alright, so while Mephi's ACU is trundling around chasing after Zooey's, probably not the most efficient use of an ACU, we have got the ACU done here for Voodoo. It looks like he has done a little bit of what he wants to do over here and just backing up towards the water a little bit. We're at 9 minutes into the game, not quite ready for any kind of snipe yet. Well, actually, there's maybe just a little bit of a thought of a gunship snipe in the works here for Mephi. Mephi realizing that he's got a reasonable handle on air control, he can venture into Voodoo's territory if he so wishes. Just deciding there that he might actually throw together a couple of gunships and think about trying to do some damage. So Voodoo very sensibly putting his ACU a little bit closer to the water so that he can jump in there, go for a swim if he needs to. These Zooey's up here just making an absolute nuisance of themselves, just coming in, destroying engineers. Well, actually, that's the first mass extractor they've taken out. They did stop this factory going up here, so a little bit of work done, but it looks like bombers are on the case for Mephi. He's going to try and take those guys out, and another bomb comes in. There we go. Does manage to deal with that. Another, no drops, it's just that single gunship. So we've got that one gunship coming in here. There's a reasonable number of interceptors on support duty for that. It is not going to survive too well against any ground-based AA, but unfortunately for Voodoo, he actually has 0 ground-based AA in this area. He is relying entirely on the interceptor that he's got, and they are coming in now to try and deal with that gunship. Now, if they focus fire the gunship, it might mean that Mephi, with a couple of really good turns, may be able to get the better of that pack of interceptors with this, but it looks like Mephi was maybe napping just a little bit and was not quite ready to handle those interceptors, and it looks like they're going to be well outnumbered and go down. Meanwhile, the bulk of Mephi's Air Force, well, where is the bulk of Mephi's Air Force? Over here, there it is. So starting to come in, trying to lend a little bit of support, but a little bit late. It looks like he had his Air Force split up into 2 or 3 groups, and that just means that in any one place he just wasn't as strong as what Voodoo had and just couldn't do anything with it. So this gunship definitely taking a lot of fire from those interceptors. They are locked onto it, and down it goes. The best thing he could do with that now is to put it up onto the cliff, away from the prying reclaim beams of the engineers. He is going to work with a lot of different gunships in a lot of different places, though. We've got gunships all around the map just trying to do a good amount of raiding, so I'm not sure if Voodoo is able to quite cover the entire map. It is a reasonably large map. It does take a little bit of time for the interceptors to rock their way across and deal with any annoying gunships. So there's a few more gunships out now, and it looks like they've just got orders to just continue across the map, just trying to make all sorts of nuisances of themselves. Mephi trying to get a little bit of a naval presence underway. Unfortunately, it is right in the path of a horde of roaming Zoos. So down they go. There is a little band trying to intercept. There are a couple of FAMs in there, so that should hand the win across to Mephi and block that incursion once again. But we still see a ridiculous line of Zoos just heading across the ocean or the river, whatever it might be, and just trying to get up in the business of Mephi's starting slice of pizza. Doesn't look like it's really paying off though, and it looks like Voodoo has thought better about that and just sent those guys a little bit further away from that gunship on guard duty. So far, Mephi not being able to establish much of a naval presence because his naval factories keep going down. He does have a couple of factories here to worry about from Voodoo. The gunship's trying to take care of that. I'm not sure quite what the plan is there. Actually, Voodoo wants to be very careful that that does not die. It's going to be not a problem. There are interceptors on hand, but he's already getting that upgraded to Tech 2, so it looks like he's going straight for a Tech 2 build. And as Seraphim, that's actually going to give him the cruisers, which are pretty handy at reaching inland with their tactical missiles and doing a lot of damage. There is actually a good stack of naval factories up here, which I missed for Mephi, so that is actually going to give him a pretty good amount of production, and he's going to be able to use it a lot better than Voodoo, because if we look at the scoreboard, we have got 93 mass per tick to the 61 that Voodoo has, so that's a pretty significant advantage. So it is going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for Voodoo. Maybe if he can get that T2 out, get some destroyers that will be able to mop up the T1 frigates that Mephi will be spamming for at least the immediate future. I don't think I saw any upgrades. He wouldn't be upgrading here because those are pretty vulnerable. Surely not. Nope. No upgrades there, and no, it looks like he may not be aware that Voodoo is actually switching up to Tech 2 Navy. Meanwhile, he continues to drop raids and harass with gunships, just doing as much damage as he can. If we look back a little bit, there are a few empty mass extractor spots, so continuing damage to the eco there for Voodoo. He is slowly managing to increase that up to 63 mass per tick now, but Mephi's sitting on 97 right now. That is definitely coming away with the eco game. Alright, there's a couple of Nothas out, which is an interesting choice. Seraphim Nothas not always the best T2 bombers at hitting stuff, but against static targets they can be not too bad because they do pack a reasonable amount of punch. Alright, another Zooey on raid duty. So far it feels like all of the raiding is happening on Voodoo's side of the map, so Mephi not really under a lot of pressure right now. He's got a bunch of Zooeys floating around, but he's able to deal with those pretty effectively with the gunships and maybe even the Nothas if you want to stretch it just a little bit. So he is able to deal with those. Unfortunately, the gunships are all dying to that big pack of interceptors that Voodoo has managed to amass. That is pretty impressive. It looks like he's probably got enough to force an air engagement here and come away with the win. There's actually no ground-based AA from Mephi here to support him right now, so he's going to come in. Voodoo is going to try and force that engagement. He's pretty confident that he can take out what Mephi's got. I think he's going to be right as well. He's doing a pretty awesome job. Looks like he's just hit the stop command on those interceptors, letting them thrash around and just beat the ever-living daylights out of that air force that Mephi had mustered. So Mephi spending just a little bit too much on Tech 2 air, getting gunships and fighter bombers out, and just not having the interceptors to keep them alive. And now we see a very dire situation in the air game. We have a big pile of interceptors all floating over the top of Mephi's base. Definitely not what you want to see after you've just invested a whole lot of resources in gunships and Nothas. Not a good sign at all. Okay, there is a bit of a navy forming up in the center here, so it looks like Voodoo just focusing still on T1. How is that T2 upgrade going? It is completed, and he is working on a destroyer. That's going to give Voodoo a little bit of a leg up in the naval game, because so far Mephi just having these Tech 1 frigates and Zooeys and destroyers are absolutely going to wipe the floor, especially with the beam weapon on the Seraphim destroyer. That thing is very, very quick at switching targets once one thing is destroyed and getting the rest of its firing cycle laying down damage onto a second target. Alright, we're at last seeing a little bit of harassment here. Voodoo is getting a gunship in. He is going to come in. He's going to take out that mass extractor. What is the next target of opportunity? It looks like these T1 mixes up on the plateau here are the target of choice. Just a few interceptors hovering around that gunship, just to keep it alive. Alright, looks like the bulk of Voodoo's air force is off on the left slice of pizza for Mephi here, just making sure that this gunship is alive, and it's actually wailing away on a Tech 2 mass extractor. So that is something that Mephi doesn't actually want to be losing. He's invested a little bit in upgrading that. Definitely something he wants to remedy. He is going to be able to maintain air control on this right hand side of the map. He just has enough interceptors on to take out the air force there from Voodoo, but I don't know if he's got enough to come across here and clean the skies over here. He probably needs some sort of anti-air, and a frigate would actually be, a cruiser would be fantastic for that, and he has actually got a Tech 2 naval factory, so we might actually be seeing a cruiser at any minute now, just to try and get a little bit more air coverage and hurt that air force a little bit. The frigates here are doing pretty decent job actually of warding away those Tech 1 interceptors. Not a good deal for them. They are getting a little bit hammered. So it looks like Mephi managing to isolate just a little group of interceptors from Voodoo. He's going to be able to take those guys out pretty easily, and that might actually leave him with the numbers to come across here and clear this out. But unfortunately, he is about to lose a third mech on here. This is absolutely terrible for the eco game. So Mephi is going down in eco. He's dropped down to 93 mass per tick. Voodoo, well, he must be on power stall right now. Let's just have a quick look at him. Yes, he is power stalling massively. That has got to be an upgrade. He is going to be grabbing, well, probably Raz. He does not have the notify mod on, so he has not put it into chat. But if we look at that, minus 34, minus 1000, there we go. So he is going to get a whole lot more power online, and that's probably going to give him the ability to get up to Tech 3 air. So these guys both already sitting on Tech 2 air. How is Mephi's air HQ going? It is sitting there on Tech 2, happily building transports. So I wonder if there's a little bit more drop in our future. And the factory down here for Voodoo, he is sitting there, and yes, there we go, he is actually on upgrade, so he is going to beat Mephi to Tech 3, and that upgrade has finished. We can see the scoreboard, 4.5k power to Voodoo and only 2.9 to Mephi. So Mephi just a little bit behind there. He does need to catch up. I'm not sure if he's aware. Let's just have a quick look from his perspective, see what he can see. He does have eyes on that Tech 2 factory, but it isn't actually grayed out. He does have a bunch of scouts going overhead right now. He may actually lose them all. Very unfortunate there for Mephi. He is actually not going to get eyes on that Tech 3 factory. Meanwhile, more gunship raids still going on over here. Nothing much happening more than that. Alright, in the center we have got destroyers out from both sides, wailing away at each other. There is a lot more T1 online here for Mephi though, so that is going to actually be a little bit of a naval win to Mephi, which is interesting because Voodoo was a bit ahead in the early game. He just hasn't been able to keep that lead. He's focused on other things. It looks like he's focused a little bit more on air and that land expansion. He just hasn't been able to keep up with the Navy, and it looks like most of that is going to get wiped out here. Wow, there are a pretty serious number of frigates in the center there, and there are also torpedo bombers heading over the top. They are causing all sorts of damage, so Mephi definitely on top of the naval game here. How is that T3 upgrade for Voodoo coming? It is done, and he is pumping out ASF. Alright, we have got all of the Tech 1 interceptors for Mephi heading over the top now. They will be aware of that Tech 3 factory. There are interceptors against air superiority fighters, and there are probably enough interceptors online right now to be able to deal with that, but he does need to make sure he gets something pretty quick, otherwise he's going to find himself having strat bombers around the periphery of his slices of pizza, and that's going to be no good for his eco, which has recovered to 103 mass per tick, but Voodoo managing to catch up and has just bumped up. I'm not sure if that was reclaim. That's sitting at 102. Yeah, it is reclaim. So 102 mass per tick. That is very, very even. So Voodoo having a big jump there, managing to catch up. Let's just have a quick look at the reclaim figures. We're sitting on 27,000 for Voodoo, and we are sitting on 32,000 for Mephi. So these guys definitely not slouching when it comes to picking up all of that reclaim. We've got a multifaceted attack coming in here. We've got another stack of Zooies and Thams rolling in, and more in that transport there. They are coming in to try and do a bit of damage to the main base. Meanwhile, the Tech 2 naval factory over here is going to be under a little bit of pressure here. There is just a little bit online from Mephi. just causing a few problems. Still a destroyer in the mix, a bunch of frigates laying down fire. There's a torpedo bomber or 3 out from Mephi, but they are not actually able to do a lot against this amount, especially with all of these interceptors from Mephi in the mix. There still are no cruisers from Mephi though, so that doesn't give him a massive amount of AA, but still there's quite a bit coming off of those frigates. Still a lot of damage, and that torpedo bomber just about to go down. Those frigates just managing to finish it off there. So now this Tech 2 factory just having a little bit of a problem. It's sitting on 17k HP still, but that's not going to last long when there are all of these units and these torpedo bombers bearing down on it. These drops in the center here managing to do a reasonable amount of damage. Probably the biggest thing here is all of the engineering kills that they got around that Tech 3 factory. So they have wiped out a huge amount of build power that was supporting that Tech 3 factory. It is going to be a fraction of its former self in terms of production capabilities, and it is actually under fire from cruisers. Now we can see a cruiser sitting out here in the river, just laying down fire, just trying to do as much as it can to hurt. There are absolutely no tactical missile defenses online for Voodoo, so things are starting to look a little bit bad. Voodoo taking quite a lot of damage in the center there. He's got a few troops mobilizing out here on the right slice of pizza. He's got a few troops milling around here, but there's just not enough. And look at all these empty mass extractive points. All of the engineers have been taken out. Mephi doing a fantastic job of just continuing to raid. He is just still applying a lot of pressure on the center here. We can see a squad of Nothers and gunships all rolling in as well. So that is going to augment the Yenzine. Well, interestingly, he's gone for Yenzines, not Ilshivas, even though he's dropping them. We'll let that one alone. So in come the gunships and the Nothers. The target is definitely the Tech 3 Air HQ. That is going to go down pretty soon. More tech missiles coming in, more fire coming in from those gunships. That Tech 3 factory is not going to last long. So unfortunately, it looks like Voodoo placed most of his eggs in one basket. That basket was Tech 3 Air, and unfortunately he spent just a little bit too much getting to Tech 3 and did not have the ability to maintain air control, and he lost it. Down goes that factory, and with it probably the last hopes that Voodoo is actually going to be able to salvage this one. His economy is starting to drop now. He's down to 74 mass protect. Meanwhile, Mephi is still climbing down. He's up to 115, and the torpedo bombers starting to lay fire down here on the ACUs. The ACU just getting a little bit of assistance there from those engineers, but I think it is GG. We can see GG's thrown out in the chat there, and Voodoo is conceding that he is about to die to torpedo bombers. Wow, alright. Little bit of health left, 1200 health. He is just not destined for this world much longer. There we go. Down goes Voodoo's ACU. Alright, a very action-packed start to the best of 7. So this is, of course, best of 7 between Voodoo and Mephi. Mephi, who is already pretty high in the ratings here at Forged Alliance Forever, and Voodoo, who is trying to de-rust and get back to his former glory. Unfortunately, Voodoo not quite managing to withstand the air onslaught there from Mephi. That Tech 3 upgrade, well, that just cost him a little bit too much at a time that he could not afford it. Alright, so that means that Mephi does go 1-0 up in this series. We are best of 7, so we've got a few more matches still to come. Let's see what is next on the cards. Alright, so we are going to head over to Open Palms and see whether Mephi can make it 2-0 or whether Voodoo can try and claw his way back. So let's head into round 2. Alright, that is... Alright, so the game is just loading up now. So, Open Palms. This will be interesting. We will see a lot more land spam than we did on that last match. because this is all land. Alright, let's see how these guys are going to get their initial build orders underway. Alright, Voodoo in the top left going his customary bright yellow color. He is going to throw down his first land factory, getting adjacency on just a single mass extractor. Then he's going to go for a couple of power generators and then get the rest of his core mixers. It looks like he's then going to head out and grab that hydro. So probably operating on just those, well, actually that's just one power generator, isn't it? So just a single power generator until he can grab that hydro. Mephi's plan is looking like a little bit more power generator hungry. He is going to go Cybrin. He is in his standard green color once again. He has actually gone for double adjacency on 2 of those mixers and then get 3 power generators. So not quite as much reliance there on the early hydro build for Mephi. Now I'll just quickly fix that mini-map in the side. There we go, much better for everyone. Alright, there we go. So we've got one engineer out, and that engineer is actually going to assist Mephi with those power gens. So not rushing out to that hydro, as you might expect. He is actually going to stay back at base and help out the ACU just a little bit. Alright, we've got the hydro starting there from Voodoo, so he is going to get 1 engineer, 2 engineers, and very shortly the ACU to assist. That is going to get that done. Then he's going to go land, air. Okay, so he's going to go 4th air by the looks of it. That is going to be some time before he does manage to get any units up into the skies. We'll hope that works out for him. In contrast to that, Mephi is actually going to go 2nd air. I do believe it is that one, and then I know some power generators and then the air factory. That is correct. So yes, needing to bump up his power just a little bit more, but 2nd air, so that will lean towards a little bit more early bomber play and definitely a bunch more intel gathering from Mephi. Alright, that hydro is completed, so that puts Voodoo at a pretty nice power advantage right now, sitting on 140 to 80 on Mephi's side of the map. So definitely a good thing for Voodoo. It looks like that early hydro build just giving him a little bit of a leg up in terms of power, but he's not using it for the power hungry air production. He is going to go land, air. Alright, so we can see actually that factory is idle. What is going on here? What is this madness? He has got a factory. There we go. He is starting to produce units, so we are hopefully going to see a little bit of raiding getting its head on soon. Alright, and there is a mantis out the side of the map for Mephi. It looks like he is pretty much on guard duty though, so he is not quite ready to go out and stick it to Voodoo. He is going to sit back and just guard that engineer, make sure Voodoo doesn't take him out. Alright, the ACU for Voodoo is moving southwards. He's going to come down, he's going to capture those 2 mixers and then very aggressively head right on over here and try and build a couple more mixers under Mephi's nose. We'll see what Mephi has to say about that, because I don't think he's going to be too pleased about that. Not at all. Mephi, on the other hand, he is going for a little bit more of a conservative approach. He's going to come across, grab these mixers, then come across and get the expansion. As you might expect, it is a little bit more secure, a little bit safer place for your ACU. The spam is starting to make its way onto the field now. We've got a couple of mantis and mole pairs coming out here from Mephi. They're going to probably try and go and do a little bit of damage, and we've actually got quite a few tanks up here. So strikers for the UEF, we've got 4, 5, 6 on screen, so he's really going to be pushing a solid group of strikers early on rather than little raiding groups. He does have one little raiding group across this side, just going to try and pick up some engineers, but he's got a pretty solid assault planned over this side, and Mephi won't be seeing that coming because he doesn't actually have any scouts out yet. In fact, that air factory just going up now, so that was a little bit later in the queue, and that is going to finally get him some air power. But Voodoo actually beating him to the air game, and he has got an interceptor out. Does he have a scout out already? I'm not sure that he does. It looks like he went first interceptor, expecting a bomber from Mephi. That just didn't materialize. This is a nice little raid here from Voodoo. Unfortunately for him, he is going to run smack into the face of Mephi's ACU, and you do not want to be fighting a ACU with just 4 or 5 Tech 1 units. That is not a winning proposition at all. Fortunately for Voodoo, he has enough strikers online back here to be able to deal with this little counter raid that Mephi is throwing at him. He will be able to take those guys out as long as he gives the command and gets those strikers back into position. Unfortunately, that mantis is going to escape with 150 health on the dial, and that is going to be free to come and take this engineer out. That is absolutely tragic for that engineer, not at all what Voodoo wanted to allow, and even more Mantis are slipping in. This is a little bit of a mistake here. That engineer is coming under fire now. He is going to get taken out by that Mantis. He's not even dodging. He was trying to build the next mass extractor, which will now fail. Meanwhile, Mephi has completely secured this position here. He's got a little bit of raid on his hands. He doesn't have quite enough to deal with it just yet, but he is got production online right here, so pretty soon he will be able to deal with that. So what do you do in that situation? You just take your ACU and you just shove it up the other side of the map just to try and stick it to your opponent. Now, Voodoo still on his plan here. It looks like he's very, very cheekily come in here. He is going to build those mass extractors after all. So that is a very nice cheesy move, getting right in under the face of Mephi, with Mephi's base right there in the background, and he is sticking it to him by building some mass extractors. Meanwhile, though, he is managing to wipe out this little expansion here, so pretty good effort there from Voodoo managing to take out that expansion. While he still does hold a couple here. The Mantis have they shifted off? Yes, they have. They have shifted around to the back. They're going to take that out, but still Voodoo holding just a little bit more real estate, at least until this ACU makes its way up that side of the map. Alright, this is a very, very aggressive forward ACU here from Voodoo. I don't think he's got any upgrades at all. No, he's still sitting on a Tech 1 stock standard ACU. He's going to trundle right on up into Mephi's base and just try to cause a little bit of havoc. I just don't know what the plan is here. There is enough Tech 1 online to give some serious trouble to an ACU which is sticking its neck out just so far. He probably wants to pull that ACU back just a little bit, and it looks like he's actually prompting Mephi to recall his ACU. So Voodoo is going to hold on to this side of the map. That will cause Mephi to bring back here, and that'll mean that Voodoo is actually holding on to about 3/4 of the mass on the map. That is a pretty significant move, but that's not going to matter at all if he's going to get killed at the 6-minute mark, and it looks like it just might actually happen, because he is getting tangled up in Mantis. There are Mantis all under his feet, and we know exactly what happens when you have Mantis under your toes. You cannot walk. It's like walking on cockroaches. You get stuck, and if you get stuck, you get dead, and he could very well get dead, but it looks like he may just have enough online. Maybe he's still sitting on 8,800 health. He's probably going to get out of there. It looks like the troops are thinning for Mephi just enough to give Voodoo a little bit of breathing space, but here they come again. They are having a renewed assault. They are trying to throw everything in. Mephi just hoping, I think, that he had enough units there, but there just was not enough left. Voodoo managing to take out enough of those guys that he survives, and he is sitting on 7,700 HP. Not the best health ever, but not too bad, and he is coming back for some more punishment, but this time he's got a renewed little force of tanks with him. In fact, he is going to shoot those guys around. He's going to come right back into the base here, try and do a little bit of damage. Unfortunately, there are no T2 mixers to take out. There is just a little bit of T1 power, not a huge number of targets of opportunity, and it looks like they're probably going to get sandwiched by these units here. Potentially, though, that might leave the top side of this main base open to Voodoo to come in with his ACU, and he does have some Lobos with him, so he will be able to take out this point defense at range. That will be problematic for Voodoo. It is actually working a little bit. He is pulling Mephi's units away into the back of his base, so Mephi very desperate to defend his power and his mass back here. That does mean that Voodoo is going to have another opportunity to get a little bit of a free run against this base here, so he's going to come in and do a little bit more damage. Voodoo actually running away with the eco now. He's sitting on 57 mass per tick to the 35 that Mephi has. Nice little raid over here is going to try and equalize that, but still, that's a pretty good lead. So Mephi just managing to defeat the units back here. Actually, very, very little damage was done. It looks like half a power generator died, no mass extractors, and all it did was leave a bunch of reclaims. So Voodoo is actually going to have to be very, very careful here, because although he does have a commanding position in terms of map control and economy, if he keeps dumping mass on Mephi's doorstep like this, it is going to turn things around real quick. So he's going to have to back off, make sure he's got enough forces to get in there and get the job done, and make sure he can finish it off. He has managed to regen back up to 11k HP. Mephi sitting on 10,000 that the Cybran ACU has by default. Another very nice raid. The lack of forces on the right here because Mephi is just trying so hard to deal with everything Voodoo is throwing on the left. That is going to leave this expansion open to those raids there. That is no good at all for Mephi. And down the back here, he has got a little bit more going on. He's got a Tech 1 point defense. He's throwing up some factories. Unfortunately for Voodoo, he brought no Lobos in that mix. So actually there is a couple over here, so he might just be able to get the job done if he can get those units into position. He's wiped out that expansion there. That's doing a fantastic job of suppressing the eco for Mephi, sitting on 25 mass per tick. So now it's a 2-to-1 mass differential. The eco did go down here for Voodoo. He is on the rebuild though, so he's managed to stop the raiding units. He's rebuilding. That'll just increase that even further, so he'll end up on nearly 60 mass per tick, which is almost 3-to-1 mass advantage once he reclaims that. Mephi just moving forward with his ACU. He knows he needs to push back here because there is just starting to be a little bit too much getting ready to attack him. The number of Tech 1 units here from Voodoo, if they come together in one point, they could easily surround and kill that ACU from Mephi. Mephi only having the 10k HP that Cyber Commander offers, that is not the greatest in the world. That could be a bit of a problem. If Voodoo is aware, let's just have a quick check from Voodoo's perspective. No, he has no idea that the ACU is right there and out on its own. If he did, he could probably make a move. He could pincer this group of units off. He could grab all of these guys and his ACU to come down against Mephi's ACU and potentially do quite a bit of damage. Alright, sitting on 55 mass per tick for Voodoo and 33, so Mephi definitely not in a position to look at T2, but perhaps Voodoo is. Have we got any T2 shift planned? I'm not sure that I'm seeing anything there in terms of Tech 2, so it might just be Tech 1 spam all day. Maybe it is. Alright, we've got a counter push here from Mephi. He does need to group those Mantis up a little bit more. It looks like he is pulling them back, trying to do exactly that. He does need to make sure that his fire is concentrated a little bit more, because walking into a pretty dense group of well-formed units from Voodoo, that is going to be suicide. He is not going to want to offer up a bunch of reclaim to Voodoo in this position. Alright, all of that reclaim sitting on the field. Most of it over here has been picked up, so Mephi definitely doing a good job there. He is going to, well, he could be using his ACU for reclaim, he could be, but he's not. Alright, there is one engineer out here. He is going to be scooping up as much of that just to try and keep the eco in balance there. We're sitting on 33 for Mephi, and it was jumping up into the mid-40s with that reclaim going on, so definitely still leaves Mephi a little bit wanting for mass, and it looks like he's going to actually come up with a solution for that, and that is to raid these plateaus up here, because Voodoo actually hasn't gone for those at all. That gives him a little position here that he can get radar coverage, and it also means that he's got the mass extractors here, and well, Voodoo hasn't taken this side either, so that actually leaves that open to a little expansion there from Mephi, just to try and make up for that mass differential. Alright, the counter push here from Mephi not going particularly well. Voodoo is just backing up. It means that there is continuously Lobo fire raining down on these guys, and well, there is a pretty dense army waiting for that little green block of Mantis in just a moment. That is not going to be too pleasant at all. It looks like the ACU coming in here from Voodoo, and I do believe he got the gun upgrade. There we go. So Voodoo has managed to get a little bit of an upgrade on his ACU, and we saw Mephi actually coming back a little bit. That was to back up and take himself out of the line of fire for just a couple of minutes while he also gets the gun upgrade. Now Mephi, I do believe, has got Notify on. Thank you, Mephi, and that shows us that he is indeed getting the gun. Alright, a pretty substantial lead in the air game for Voodoo. Mephi just not being able to compete in that arena much at all. We've got a big cloud of interceptors heading overhead. They are coming in to just clear out any interceptors that might be in there, so that these bombers can come in and do their thing. That is going to cause a bit of damage to the T1 army. There's no mobile AA in that mix. Mephi is going to be relying entirely on static AA and interceptors, of which he has just a really small number over here. They are very badly damaged as well. That is not much of an air force at all, and these bombers are just going to absolutely go to town on the T1 units. That is going to be no good at all, and Voodoo still having way more T1 than he needs to deal with that anyway, plus those bombers. This is looking absolutely brutal, and then he's ready to perform the rest of his pincer maneuver by bringing this cloud of units in here, and they're just going to start ripping the back of Mephi's base into shreds. This is looking really bad for Mephi. In fact, he's down to 5,800 HP, and that is not a good position at all. He's bringing all of his forces in. He's basically sacrificing those guys right now just to keep the fire off his ACU, and that is not a winning proposition at all. In fact, is that bomber coming in for the ACU? Yes, the bomber is actually targeting the ACU, just laying in a little bit of a sucker punch while he's down to 5,000 HP. Now, unfortunately for Mephi, he is now completely out of tier 1 units, and he is completely surrounded by those strikers and Lobos, and of course Voodoo's ACU sitting very, very pretty on 15k HP, and that is going to be the end of Mephi. That is no good at all for Mephi, but it is fantastic for Voodoo because that actually pushes us to 1-all, so that ties it up. This is of course best of 7, so these guys, well, yeah, sitting at 1-all, that's great. That means we are definitely going to go more than 4 games, which is always good to see. Alright, there we go. So we see a little bit of a comeback there from Voodoo. His T1 spam game was just a little bit too strong for Mephi. He just took too much of the map. He managed to capture, well, 3/4 of it. The plateaus, they did go Mephi's way, kind of, but it just wasn't enough to make up for the 2-for-1 mass differential, and Mephi just getting out spammed. There wasn't even any Tech 2 in there, just purely T1 spam. Wow, okay. So we are sitting on 1-all, Mephi versus Voodoo in this best of 7. We are, of course, watching, if you are not aware, Forged Alliance Forever. So this is Supreme Commander, Forged Alliance. We're playing the Forged Alliance Forever mod and multiplayer client. You can grab it at faforever.com. All you need is a working copy of Supreme Commander Forged Alliance. Alright, we have got the next game ready to go, so we're going to find out if Mephi can take one back and get in the lead again, or whether Voodoo is going to try and run away with a little bit of a streak here. So that is going to be very interesting indeed. Let's go to round 3. Alright, we are on Theta Passage. We are going to see a little bit of fast action, I do suspect here. Let's just fix that mini-map up and get ready to rock and roll. Alright, we have got Voodoo in the bottom left corner. He is actually opting for Aeon this time. He's going his customary yellow color. He's going to go first Land Factory, then he's going to get a power generator. He is going to get 1, 2 mass extractors, 3 mass extractors, 4 mass extractors, and a hydro. That is going to get his power build up and running pretty quickly, and then I suspect we'll see a bunch of land factories. Alright, Mephi, he has gone for adjacency over here. He is going to throw down that first land factory, going for a power generator as well, and we're going to see just the 1, 2 power mass extractors, I should say, before trying to grab that hydro. So that's going to slow down the ACU's progress just a little bit, but it will capture a little bit more mass early on for Voodoo, get the power up and running a little bit faster for Mephi. Alright, how are we going in terms of getting those engineers out to the front? So this engineer is on its way out. It will very momentarily begin work on that hydro. He's not actually using a distance build at all, so he's not making the most of the build range on the engineer. Very interesting, just saving himself a little bit of APM there, so the engineer is going to walk right up. Oh no, there we go, he is just a little bit out of range. There we go. Alright. And we've got the same sort of thing here, Mephi making a little bit more use of the distance build on those engineers. He has got a very nice amount of build power onto that hydro. He's getting that done nice and quickly. That's going to put him in a really good position for power in just a minute. Alright, we've got Rambo out here for Voodoo. He is going to try and get how many kills? I think he needs about 300 kills to really count as a Rambo. I'm not quite sure that's going to happen, especially because he just walked smack into the ACU of Mephi and got one-shotted. Not quite the Rambo that I am familiar with. Alright, we do have an Aurora out, so that is going to come down here. It's going to be on guard duty by the looks of it. So there is a scout out the bottom with its handy radar that's going to give a little bit of a aforementioned warning for any raiding units that is going to be coming up there. Alright, so there is the Aurora coming out. That'll be guarding the engineer. Mephi will be able to see what's coming, and so far there is actually nothing in the way of intel gathering beyond Rambo. There we go. There is a little bit. There's Scruffy. Well, that's not nearly as legendary a screen name, but Scruffy managing to take out, must have been an engineer in there, and that is just going to be a little bit of a problem. That was grabbing reclaim for Mephi. So that's going to put the manual reclaim game just a little bit behind for Mephi. He is a little bit ahead. He has got one mass extractor more than Voodoo at this point, so he is sitting on 11 mass protect to the 9, which is not a big difference. That is half a factory's worth of T1 spam. But every little bit counts, especially on a map that is this small and this fast. Alright, Scruffy, after getting his glorious kill up in the engineering business, he's going to come around, and unfortunately he may just walk into the gun range of Mephi. Is it going to be the case? No, he's just going to scoot by. And that was a very, very lucky waypoint indeed. He is actually... No, he didn't skirt by. That was not a lucky waypoint. He does go down. So Scruffy not living to fight another day. Alright, we've got a pretty good build-up of units here from Mephi. We've got 4 Auroras ready to go, and there's actually nothing on the side that Voodoo has got ready. On this side of the map, we have got just a couple of Auroras and a bit more of a build-up here. So if push comes to shove, Voodoo should be able to punch his way through this right-hand side of the map, and it definitely looks like Mephi will be able to punch his way through the top, although it is still fairly close to the production for Voodoo, so that does give him the opportunity to get a little bit more reinforcements on the field. Okay, these guys are starting to duke it out in the center of the map, just laying it down a little bit of fire. ACU versus ACU, mano y mano, and, well, actually Mephi's just going to say, I don't care about you, I'm just going to reclaim. So he is going to go off and reclaim. Meanwhile, mass extractor goes down. That is very, very nice. No, that was not a mass extractor, it's been a radar from Voodoo. That will be very good for denying that intel. Very handy indeed. Although Voodoo still not managing to grab these mass extractors, so we've got a couple of dead engineers down here, and that is going to delay the mass game for Voodoo just a little bit, and you really can't have your mass game delayed that much on such a small map. And we can see 15 mass per tick to 21. That's a factory and a half worth of spam that Mephi has got over Voodoo right now. That's starting to be a little bit of a problem. He definitely needs to take care of that. We've got a first major engagement of the match happening down here, and it looks like the micro for Mephi just taking that formation end on of Voodoo's might be just looking a little bit better. It does look like the numbers were pretty even with reinforcements, probably just a slight advantage to Mephi. Alright, on the right hand side we have an attempt at walls. Unfortunately, there is one that has been taken out. Was that actually killed? Was that a wall section that was killed by Aurora Fire? That would have taken a while. Surely not. There's no engineers in the vicinity. I'm not sure what's going on there. But that is going to actually pave the way to come through and start doing a bit of damage. So if Voodoo can get in here and take out these 4 mass extractors, that's going to even up the mass game considerably. That's going to do the same kind of damage over as Mephi has inflicted on Voodoo on this side of the map. These guys are looking pretty damaged right now. What are these guys doing? They are sitting on less than 4k HP each, and of course you have 2.5k on the ACU death nuke explosion. If these guys are below that threshold and one of them goes up, then they are both going to go. And what is going on here? No, this is not how this game is supposed to be played. They are going to get a draw. It looks like Voodoo is actually going to go down first, but that ACU death nuke is going to take out Mephi as well. That is not very sportsmanlike. That's not not how you play a best of 7 by getting mutual KOs. Not at all. Right. Okay, after that disgusting bit of play where we see the score remaining at 1-1, we've actually played 3 matches and I'm not giving either of them any points. I think I saw in chat that they wanted half a point for that each, but I'm not going to give that to them. That was disgusting. Alright, let's get that game off the screen. Let's move on to hopefully a little bit of a better game. So we're still sitting on 1-1. That is after 3 rounds because that is a dirty draw and counts for nothing. Alright, let's find out what is going to be the next game. Alright, let's just load that up in the background while we play our lovely Forged Alliance Forever animation, because this is Supreme Commander Forged Alliance. Head on over to www.faforever.com and join us building giant robots and lots of awesome stuff like that, because it is awesome indeed. Alright, we are just about ready to head into round 4. So this time it looks like it's actually going to be Icelands. Alright, let's head into round 4 and let's hope for no more of those horrible, horrible draws. Alright, here we go. We are going to go to Icelands. Of course, this is a 6-player map, normally reserved for 3 versus 3, so we do have a couple of expansions. These guys are going to have to get their expansion game on once again. Alright, we have got Mephi opting for Cybran this time around. No surprises there. He is going to throw down his first land factory, get some mass, get a couple of power generators. Looks like he was thinking about 3 power generators, but opting for just 2 because there is a hydro right here that is going to get him underway, and then he's going to go for a second land factory after grabbing the rest of his core mass. Alright, down in the south we have got his opponent once again, Voodoo. He is going to go his customary yellow color. He's going to also go Cybran. So this is a Cybran mirror matchup. Who would have thought? He is going to throw down just a single power generator before running off to grab those extra 4 mixes. Alright, there is a hydro right here. He is going to prioritize that. His hydro is already underway and just starting there for Mephi. So that 1 less power generator for Voodoo, just getting him a little bit faster, I think, onto the hydro. Alright, he is just getting his 4 core mixes. Then what is he going to do with his ACU? He is going to bring his ACU into the center, towards the hydro, and lend a little bit of a hand to that engineer to get that done a little bit faster. And we can see here an absolutely ridiculous number of land factories that he has got planned. So there is, I don't think, there is an air factory in there. There we go. So he is going third air actually, but wow, that is a lot of land factories. That is quite silly. Alright, we've got some early raiding units coming out here from Mephi. There's a hunter just strolling down towards the center of the map. And Mephi did say something in chat. Let's just have a quick look at that. I think this will fail. I don't know quite what his plan is going to be. Maybe it'll be epic. Maybe it will be an epic fail. Let's see. Okay, so he's going to come across here. He's going to throw down a second land factory, and he's actually looking a little bit light on factory builds right now. He's got a big swag of templates laid out for power generators. That is more than enough power, but he's just not got a lot of plans for factories just yet. Where are his engineers going? They're out here on expansion duty, out here on, well, it looks like mass extractor and then probably reclaim duty, and no expansion over to the side at all yet. Alright, we have got this little pesky hunter here, has the ACU center. I don't think he's got any radar coverage yet. No, he doesn't. It does stroll into range of the ACU and unfortunately goes down. So just another bad day for those raiding bots for Mephi and for Voodoo, just getting absolutely smashed. Alright, we've got a little bit of engagement up here, but this time it is actually a mantis, so that's going to wipe the floor with the raiding hunter and continue on to do a bit more damage. So those guys probably going to come up this way and try and stop any engineers that are thinking about taking this expansion for their very own. But so far actually not any plans whatsoever from Mephi to actually head out that way. So he's actually just choosing to ignore about a third of the eco that he has available to him. That is very interesting. Meanwhile, Voodoo actually grabbing engineers out both sides. They are still a little bit vulnerable, but it's still an attempt to grab as much eco as he can and sending quite a few mantis over this left-hand side. So he's going to be wondering what the heck is going on by the time he gets there and finds that there is absolutely nothing happening. He's going to be wondering if Mephi is AFK. I don't know. What is Mephi AFK? I don't think he is, but this is odd. Okay, so we've got a bit of reclaim going down there. What is this ACU doing? It is so far forward. There's still nothing on the map that can actually kill him but still very, very far forward. He doesn't have the ACU to help in any of the side engagements that are going to be going on, and it looks like Voodoo might actually be thinking about rocking on up and taking this, which will be very, very bad for Mephi, because this is currently the only expansion that he actually has. If he loses that, he's going to be back down to just the core mixers that he managed to grab originally. Voodoo sitting on 29 mass per tick to the 20. Wow, of course that's reclaim. It drops down to 21. And I don't think he's power stalling, is he? Oh, he is power stalling badly. So he is sitting on about 30 mass per tick, I believe, to the 25 of Mephi. It looks like it is about 20. Oh, he's still power stalling as well. So these guys having a very terrible day in terms of having enough power generator to support whatever the heck they are doing. Alright, we've got a mass extractor going down in the center there. Mephi just thinking, oh, I'm going to take this area for my very own. I'm going to put up a little house and live here. Looks like he might be better off doing that than getting the ACU into battle, because if he comes across to the right hand side, he might actually end up sandwiched between the ACU from Voodoo and the reinforcements coming up from the south. That could be a bad day for an ACU. Finally, Mephi is actually sending a engineer out this way, and he's got a little bit of guard duty as well. This engineer here, he is, well, is he on patrol? Because he has got no orders that I can see. That is maybe going to grab that expansion, maybe help the eco out just a little bit. But right now, Voodoo's sitting on about 8 mass per tick advantage. That is 2 full factories of spam. That is not something that Voodoo wants to be having coming up towards one side of his ACU, while the ACU from Voodoo is doing damage on the other. Voodoo managing to take out whatever was going on in there. There was an engineer and probably a radar as well, so that just knocks that out. He does leave those 4 core mixers intact though, which is interesting because there's actually nothing threatening him right now. He's probably a little bit afraid though. He doesn't have radar coverage. Where is scouts? He does actually have some scouts, so he could get a pretty good bead on where the units are for Mephi. He just hasn't actually got that right now. So Mephi just trying to cut off, it could actually turn the other way right now, because if Mephi can cut off the ACU for Voodoo and get all of his reinforcements in, that could actually turn it right around. So maybe Voodoo made the mistake here of making his ACU just a little bit exposed. It looks like he is running for the hills, or in this case the back of his base. He is going to come in. He's actually going to bring the units up. He's realized the predicament that he is in. He's going to get those guys up into the fight, and it's actually going to be reasonably even. The units for Voodoo are a little bit more spread out. Mephi's got a tighter clump there, but all in all, it's actually pretty even and could go either way. So the yellow floods over the top, and it actually looks like he's got enough. He's got the numbers to do it, and Mephi just wandering a little bit too far on Voodoo's side of the fence, and he starts to get wrapped up in Mantis, and he's actually getting his pathfinding messed up, and that is a bad deal. And what is this? A Jester! That is the ultimate cheese, getting a Jester out to come and attack that ACU. That is going to be just a little bit of extra HP. This is looking incredibly bad for Mephi. He does have some reinforcements rolling on in, or walking in I should say, because they are madness with their stickly little legs, and they are going to come in and start doing a bit of damage. But that ACU is down to, well, 2800 HP. He has got a couple of Jesters. No, there was one Jester. There is some AA in the mix, some mobile AA. That's going to do a heck of a job. And there are interceptors as well for Mephi, and they will take care of those Jesters. That leaves Mephi on just 2500 HP. That looked like he was very, very much doomed at that point, but he might just actually be able to get away with this because he has enough reinforcements coming in here to maybe cut off that supply from Voodoo and turn this thing around. And Voodoo actually finding himself with units under his feet. Now this is very interesting. Voodoo just being very aggressive here. He knows that Mephi is on the ropes. Mephi is down into the yellow. He is pushing hard because he knows that he can kill Mephi if he can get within range. Unfortunately, he let Mephi get out of range, and that means that he is not going to be catching with his ACU. That means that Mephi might actually just get out of this one because he is backing up. Voodoo is choosing to come in and take those units out. I don't know that that's a particularly wise idea because there are quite a lot of Mantis in there. They can do quite a bit of damage, and his units are not that many in number, and they're a little ways behind that ACU, so not really the best proposition. Meanwhile, though, Voodoo has actually lost the side expansion. The Mantis have rolled on in for Mephi and cleared that out. That is going to hurt his eco just a little bit, and Mephi actually doing a fantastic job of clawing back the eco. He's sitting on 45 mass per tick to the 25, 26 of Voodoo. This is starting to turn, actually. It looked like Mephi was in a really bad position to start with, but he has managed to get a ton of factories online. He has managed to get a ton of mass online, and actually, where is all that mass coming from? 39 mass per tick. I don't think he's got any upgraded mass extractors. That's purely just on the number of T1 mexes that he holds. And what is this? This is a snipe in the works for Voodoo, but does he have the air control to be able to pull it off? He hasn't built any interceptors to go along with those jesters, and we have got a half a dozen interceptors here for Mephi. That is not the best plan in the world. Where are those jesters going? What is the plan here? They're going to come in and try and do what? What is going on here? That is going to go for the air factory? No. Looks like Voodoo just can't make up his mind about what targets he wants to hit. He is rolling those jesters around. They're getting absolutely pulverized by those interceptors because Mephi has got no air of his own to support them, and now Voodoo is on the back up here. He has got just a few too many mantis that he can deal with. He's running a little bit short on forces of his own right here, and he's actually under Tech 1 bomber fire as well. That's going to be just laying down a little bit of extra hurt onto Voodoo's ACU, and Voodoo actually looking a little bit in danger here of having his pathfinding messed up so badly that the rest of these mantis can actually make their way in and take him out. That would be an absolute tragedy. He needs to get all his reinforcements up there, and he needs to get them there now, but he just doesn't have the numbers. He's only got half a dozen here, he's got half a dozen here. They're taking fire from T1 bombers. He is going to go down here. This is not at all what we're expecting. Voodoo was on the aggression. He was going to take out Mephi. Mephi was almost dead, but now Voodoo just getting absolutely wrapped up. He's taking these T1 bomber hits. He is taking the continual rain of fire from these mantis. This is not his game. He's down to 6,700 HP, and he's actually walking close to the ACU. He's probably thinking, and I hope he is not, he is probably thinking he is going to go for another draw. Mephi sitting on 4,600 HP. That is definitely out of range of a mutual KO. 4,300, still too high. Voodoo is going to go down, and he is not going to take Mephi with him this time. So that means that Mephi does take that one back. He manages to bring this up to 2 points to 1, or 2 matches to 1 in this best of 7. Alright, so that is interesting. Alright, so we saw there Mephi managing, despite being in a little bit of a sticky situation early on, he managed to get the advantage. He managed to get more mass somehow, pretty much by just raiding those outlying mexes. Did an absolutely fantastic job of that, and he did come away with a win. No mutual for Voodoo this time, and we are happy about that. Alright, so the score does shift this time. It goes up to 2 games to 1 in favor of Mephi. Interesting. Next, let's see what we've got next. We are actually going to head on over to Twin Rivers. So this is another really spammy land map. There is obviously room for expansion using air. There's a little bit of option for naval play, but we all know that it is a land spam map. So we're going to head on over to that. We are, what are we sitting on? 2 points to Mephi and 1 point to Voodoo going into, this must be round 5. All right, here we go. Twin Rivers. Alright, we are going to see whether Voodoo can equalize or whether Mephi is actually going to take it out. Alright, so we are going to go Cybran once again for Voodoo. He's going to stay in his nice lovely yellow color. He's going to throw down that first land factory, getting adjacency on one of those mixes. He's going to go after a stack of power generators and then get his air factory underway. Mephi in the top right corner, he is also going to go Cybran, so there's a big surprise for you, and he is going to throw down his first land factory, also getting adjacency on one of those mass extractors. Then he's going to build a ton of power generators, and it looks like he's going to go air. So Mephi definitely looking like he's going to push the land spam game this time, and Voodoo maybe just thinking a little bit more about air because he's going to go for that second air factory. That means he is going to be a little bit short on spam just in that early game. I wonder if that's going to make the difference. We'll see if Mephi can get a bunch of mantis all up in the expansion of Voodoo. Okay, we've got this engineer coming out to grab the customary reclaim that of course everyone is going to grab on Twin Rivers. Then he's going to head up into the back here, and he is going to grab those 4 core mixers. He's going to get a radar online to spot any trouble coming. He is going to grab a land factory as well. Fairly similar plan here from Voodoo. He's going to come down here and grab that reclaim. He is going to actually go for a little bit extra reclaim in the back here of his plateau. He's going to grab those core mixes and then head across here and grab that one as well. So definitely more focused on the mass, while Mephi is focused a little bit more on retaining the position and having a little bit of production capability to boot. Probably going to grab that Hydra in fairly short order and get a little bit of air up on the plateau as well, one could expect. Alright, these engineers are actually doing a very nice job for Voodoo. He is getting out pretty early with these. What? Hang on, I'm just going to stop that right there. What is this? This is a ridiculous grid of power generators here from Voodoo. He obviously has a template which he's stamped down 4 times, and that is an anti-Tech 1 bomber template, but boy does that take up a lot of space. Alright, he's going to grab those mixers out this way with that engineer, unless he gets raided of course, and he has got another engineer actually heading out towards the center to grab this reclaim. That is worth a decent chunk of mass. There's about 500 in that transport wreck, and then there's a bit more floating around as well, and I'm not seeing a counter reclaim from Mephi, so it looks like he might actually be ignoring that mass and just going straight for the expansion. Right, Voodoo managing to grab some of this reclaim after building those mass extractors. We've got exactly the same thing from Mephi on the other side. Very good for them. It's sitting on 17 mass per tick, just clicking over to 19 for Mephi, and well, dropping down to 12 for Voodoo. That suggests to me power problems, and yes, that is exactly what we have. Voodoo is power stalling once again, so obviously in his hiatus, he's forgotten a little bit about building power generators, and well, building them in a sensible fashion as well. So he probably wants to here's me handing out advice to Voodoo. What am I thinking? I don't play this game very well at all. I hardly play this game at all. So Voodoo can do what he damn well pleases, because he would kick me off the map any day. Alright, he is going to get a 4th land, so he's going to go 4th land and 5th land, so he's starting to get his spam game on. Now he does have that bomber out as well, so he's got an early bomber. Where's the plan for that? It's probably not going to be the most useful just sitting there, so he probably wants to send that on up this way, try and take out some of those engineers that are building stuff, and just cause a little bit of problem for Mephi. There we go, the orders have been issued, that bomber is underway, and it's going to go and try and do a little bit of damage, but no scout so far. Do we have a scout coming out of the factory anytime soon? Because that scout is going to be pretty crucial to spotting the targets of opportunity for that bomber. And actually the power stall, is he still in a power stall? He could be. He's actually gone for 2nd interceptor out of that factory, so that is going to mean that he's a little bit shy on intel and which targets he should be hitting with that bomber. He doesn't look like he actually managed to get anything. He does force a bit of a move there from Mephi, so Mephi is responding. That means that will disrupt the build, but it doesn't actually knock out the engineer, and this is a little bit of a problem here for Voodoo. He has got a very little force on the ground, just a single mantis here, a couple more mantis coming in. Those guys are going to have to try and defend against this raiding group. Maybe they can do it. It looks like Mephi is probably going to consolidate. He's recognized that this is a little bit open here. He needs a bit more in the area. He's got 4 mantis coming in. There are 3 mantis now here from Voodoo and a couple more rolling in. So just probably enough for Voodoo to fend that off if he plays his micro right. Unfortunately for him, there is another stack of mantis coming in from Mephi. These guys are intent on doing harm to Mephi's base, or to Voodoo's base I should say, and Voodoo running his ACU smack into that. He has got enough HP on that thing to tank what those Mantis can do and force them back. They do take out those mass extractors on their way through though, so that is going to be a little bit more eco hurt against Voodoo, dropping Voodoo down to 35 mass per tick, just a couple behind Mephi. So sitting pretty even in terms of eco right now. The raid is still going on here. Mephi just getting a little bit of the upper hand, managing to knock out a couple more mass extractors. There is enough coming in from Voodoo to be able to deal with that, but still it took out the engineer, it took out the mass extractors. That is pretty good deal for just losing a couple of Mantis. Alright, Voodoo being reasonably aggressive with his ACU. He probably knows there's a big fat stream of T1 units rolling down from Mephi's base, and he is intent on intercepting those, and he has done a pretty good job. Mephi immediately reacts by pulling that column of units away, and they're going to back right up and stop doing damage for the time being, except of course for these guys down here who are going to be nice and cheeky. They're going to head on in and cause a little bit more eco damage to boot. Alright, so Voodoo chasing away this giant pack of T1 with his ACU. Maybe not the best idea to bring it so far out because he is reasonably far out in front of his reinforcements. His reinforcements are way back here and they're pretty spread out. They're actually pretty sparse. Mephi has got the numbers that he needs over here. If he was able to force an engagement right now with Voodoo, he would do very, very well. Voodoo actually just opting for, what is that, -9 and -280? Is that gun? Wow, okay, so he's going to go for a little bit more aggression with that ACU. He is going to, well, he could potentially catch Mephi off guard with that gun. Mephi's probably not expecting that. Voodoo is still sitting behind on power. He's sitting on only 485. That gun must be draining him pretty bad. Oh no, that is a little bit painful to see. Absolute more power woes there for Voodoo. He just doesn't have the eco. He needed that gun to be able to fight that horde of T1, but he just didn't have the eco prepared to be able to do it. That is going to put him at a bit of a disadvantage. It's going to hurt his mass income because he is stalling, and it's going to hurt his production. He just will not be able to get as much out on the field as Mephi. Mephi finally rolling in and grabbing the reclaim there, taking that extra 500 mass that was available to him and just walking away with it because there was absolutely no contest there. Voodoo could have easily sent an engineer up at some point and just grabbed that earlier on, but he just didn't. He left that there for Mephi, so Mephi will be very pleased about that, getting a little bit of a free lunch. These Mantis here from Voodoo are going to have the very unfortunate task of taking on that ACU. They are not going to do particularly well indeed, especially because there is another column of Mantis and Medusas rolling on up behind them. That is a little bit of a waste of units. Very, very little work done there. Mephi being very much onto the expansion game over this way. He's sitting on 53 mass per tick, so a little bit ahead of Voodoo, not massively, but he is going to be rocketing ahead pretty soon because he's going to grab this expansion over here. There is no contest so far. He's even got a couple of Mantis on guard duty. He's going to grab those engineers. He does have a factory. That was actually not a drop. It was an edge build from that engineer there. And we've got, must have been a drop over here, and this is going to be another claim for Mephi. That's going to give him a pretty solid grasp on the map, and that's really going to help out his eco. Voodoo starting to put that brand new shiny gun to work. He's going to come up the center here. He's going to start laying down some fire. He's taking out that mass extractor. Mephi responds by just backing on up. That is looking still a little bit dangerous. Even though that's a gun ACU, there is a ton of Mantis. We can see just the shift in formation there as Mephi pulls all of those guys back a little bit. His ACU is still reasonably far out the front. He has recognized that Voodoo's got the gun, and he is also grabbing a gun upgrade for himself, so he is going to match that tit for tat and then bring his ACU back in. Meanwhile though, he's going to have to hope that Voodoo can't get up here and do enough damage to Mephi's base with that gun ACU and with this extra army that he brought with him. That could be a problem for Mephi. If he's out here on upgrade, he could lose some of his base, and actually we can see he has switched up to Tech 2 there. He has got his Tech 2 upgrade complete. He is rolling some rhinos out. Is that the first rhino on the field? I think it just may be. Unfortunately for him, he is going to run into that gun ACU. Unfortunately for the gun ACU, he probably doesn't have enough power for overcharge. He actually does. In a surprise move, Voodoo has corrected his power problems, and he actually has overcharge. He is going to be in range of a couple of Cerberus turrets, though. That is a little bit of a problem. He is going to have to back the heck up before he takes too much damage. He's down under half health. He's down to 50, well, He was down to 5,000, 4,300, well, 4,100. He is taking a absolute ton of damage. Fortunately, he's got some Medusas putting some stuns down on those turrets. But, ow, that is absolutely brutal on the AC. Wow, down to 2,800 health. That is down into the red. This is looking very, very problematic for Voodoo. He is going to get caught out here. This is not going to work, is it? He just gets another rank of veterancy back up to 4,000 HP. He's got a few Mantis rolling in to give him support. Could he possibly pull this off and escape out of there? I think he is actually going to escape in one piece. Only, what is that, 3,700 HP. But still, one piece. Alright, Mephi has finished that gun upgrade. He is recalling his ACU to come in here and try and do a little bit of damage, but he's actually suffered a little bit over here. That gun ACU with that overcharge, knocking out those T2 units as soon as they come out of the factory, and there is a pretty healthy stream of T1 rolling in to his base. There's a good chunk here from Mephi, so probably enough to hold it off. But that gun ACU just continuing to be a problem. He's still taking fire. Mephi once again employing the Tech 1 bombers. Those things are causing a bit of damage. Every time you get a pass from 3 of those bombers, that's going to be doing about, well, more than 1,000 damage. And he's only sitting, well, he's actually up to 6k. So that's a pretty healthy regen there. And another overcharge we're going to see on that Rhino. No, it is going to escape intact. But that is a big problem for Mephi, that this gun ACU is knocking those Tech 2 units as soon as they roll out of the factory. That is no good at all for production. That is a big waste of mass. And talking about mass, holy moly, this is a big pile of mass. If Voodoo can't make this attack stick, he will be signing his death warrant with the amount of mass that he has dropped on Mephi's doorstep. Unfortunately for Mephi though, the T2 HQ does go down, so that is a little bit of a problem, and Mephi actually looking a little bit exposed. So Voodoo very low on HP, still, well, 6,600, still down in the yellow, but Mephi, he only has a handful of units. There are a lot of Tech 1 hovering around here that are ready to pounce. There is a Rhino there. Is there going to be another overcharge? No, he's going to take it out just with his main cannon by the looks of it. There it goes. Mephi just deciding to back the heck up here because he is running out of T1 units really quickly, and Voodoo still sitting on 4,600, but still only 10k HP for Mephi, so nothing like the veterancy that Voodoo has. And Mephi just taking a little bit of fire. He does have 3 Cerberus turrets back here. Those guys are going to be dishing out a ton of punishment. They are going to be helping Mephi out a massive amount, but still Mephi pushed right back. I'm not sure if he can really get to all of this reclaim, although if he gets a factory attack move with some engineers coming out, he will be able to scoop it up in a pretty big radius. But this has actually done absolutely horrendous things to Mephi's army. That has pretty much taken out all of the T1 and the T2 that Mephi had built up, and there is still a ton over here for Voodoo, so that puts Voodoo in a pretty good position. Even though his ACU is still looking a little bit dangerous, it wouldn't be too hard for a snipe to be able to take him out. There is, well, no longer T2 on the field because he did actually take out that Tech 2 factory, and the air factory from Mephi still sitting at T1. Alright, so it looks like Voodoo is going to shift. He probably realizes he doesn't quite have the momentum on that right hand side of the map against Mephi's original position anymore, so he's going to come across here and just lay it in to Mephi's expansion. Unfortunately, he's going to run smack into this wall over here, and with no engineers in sight, he's not going to be able to get past that particularly easily. He's going to have to come around this side, and hopefully he can do it before those engineers get that wall completed. Another bit of an engagement here. Voodoo just being a little bit too aggressive once again with his ACU down to 3k HP, down into the red. He just took way too much fire. He's got a lot of T1 in support, so he's not in immediate danger, but still, he took a lot more damage than he would have wanted to right there. He's just regening back up into the yellow, 3,400. He's got to be really, really careful of where the needle is on his HP tank, because if he runs out of those things, he's not going to be happy. Those Cerberus turrets just continuing to lay down fire on those Tech 1 units. Really, really effective at dishing damage to them. Have we seen a shift to T2 at all from Voodoo, or are we sticking with a T1 all day? No, we are actually going to go T2 air. We are going to get some Corsairs up and running. How many have we got of those? Is that the first one? No, there's already one out, so there's a couple of Corsairs that is going to be ready to try and do a little bit of damage. Mephi, though, still got a few interceptors floating around. I think he's still probably got a little bit more of an air force than Voodoo has, so Voodoo definitely wants to build a few interceptors as well as Corsairs to be able to pull that off. Alright, Voodoo just backing up again now. This is a little bit of a problem for him because it now gives Mephi the opportunity to scoop up an absolute metric buttload of mass. Look at that. Let's just have a quick look at the reclaim figures. Mephi sitting on 11,800 and Voodoo sitting on 6,100. So double the reclaim already for Mephi, and he still has that massive pile of green to pull in. The saving grace for Voodoo is that he is making massive inroads on this left hand side of the map. He has knocked out that expansion entirely. He is going to have to back up a little bit though. There are just a few too many Mantis and Medusas there for Mephi to come in and cause them a headache. Just doing a little bit of eco damage, actually bringing these guys right in line, both sitting on 43 mass protect right now. Mephi though running away with the power game, sitting on 1.4k power to the 880 that Voodoo has. So Voodoo building that T2 Air Force on a very, very limited supply of power indeed, which is obviously Voodoo's theme for the game. Alright, Voodoo just sitting at range, laying fire into those T1 units, just trying to take those guys out. He's taking a little bit more fire on this side. I think Voodoo is a little bit stuck here. He's got a big chunk of T1. He just can't get close to it. He really needs to make a shift to T2. If he wants to make a move on the ground, he is going to have to switch up to Vipers and get those mobile missile launchers in and taking care of these Cerberus turrets, because those Cerberus turrets just a little bit too much for the T1. He's taking fire from them again. He's just walking on into it. He is probably more aptly named Rambo when he's doing something like this, because he is just going to roll on up. He gets another rank of veterancy. He is just taking it to Mephi. He is just not caring at all about his health level. He is just tanking it. Alright, Mephi, this side, he is starting to take a little bit of damage now, and in come the Corsairs as well, and it looks like the army from Voodoo is going to come in and try and pincer and cut off Mephi. Wow, that range, that pass of Corsairs does an absolute metric ton of damage to that AC. He's down to 2,800, he's down into the red. I don't know, does he have enough? The Corsairs are still online. Is it? He's down to 1,100 HP, and down he goes. So the T2 Air saves the day. He just couldn't get the traction he needed with the T1 army, so he went for T2 Air, and he managed to pull it off. So that actually brings it up to it's 2-all to Voodoo and Mephi. So after 5 games, 2-all. Alright. Alright, so we see Voodoo managing to claw himself back a little bit. Maybe he is de-rusting as we go. So the first game he was most rusty, and by this 5th game he was a lot less so. Alright, so he manages to get a Corsair snipe in, take Mephi out, even though Mephi had a ton of Cerberus turrets. The T1 army just couldn't get near him, but those Corsairs, wow, they just come in and they finished the job indeed. Alright, so we are sitting on 2-all after 5 matches, and if you just started watching, that is because there was a dirty draw in the middle, which we don't like to talk about, and these guys do not get any points at all for that. They claim they get half a point. No, I say they get 0 points. So it is sitting on 2-all. So we're going to go into one more. This is, I think, going to be the decider, because this is going to be the 6th, and, well, we're going to call it kind of the 5th, kind of the 6th because of that draw. But it will give us a winner. So both these guys sitting on 2 matches each. Whoever comes away with this win, we're going to give the crown to from these 2 guys. Alright, that game is ready to go. So let's head on into round 6. Alright, here we are on Certus Major. Let's just fix that mini map in the corner there. And let's go and see the initial build orders for these guys. Alright, we have got, once again, Voodoo on the left. He is going to go in yellow once again. He is going to throw down his first UEF land factory. He's getting adjacency on one of those mass extractors. He's going to go for a single power generator before heading across to that Hydra, and just not quite able to make up his mind where he wants his units to go. Alright, over here for the UEF as well. So interestingly, we have a UEF matchup. we have got Mephi going his standard green color. He's going to grab adjacency on one of those mass extractors, and he's going to actually, looks like, go for 0 power generators before heading off to that hydro, and he's going to use the ACU to assist. That means he's going to get that little bit of extra power up a little bit faster. He is going to be a little bit lacking in the mass on this side. He's not going to take those, and I think Voodoo is going to grab those pretty early on. That is definitely the case. Right, so it looks like Voodoo will be slightly ahead in mass, and perhaps Mephi will be slightly ahead in power. That would lend itself to Mephi going for a slightly heavier power build. We can, an air build. And we can see there that that air factory is already planned, and then he's got a stack of templates going down as well, so he knows he's going to need a continuous supply of raw juice to keep this air game going. So Mephi definitely expecting a fair share of air engagements on this one. Alright, we've got the ACU and 2 engineers rushing that hydro. That is, well, actually Mephi got his... Yes, Mephi finished that first, but now Voodoo trying to make up for his slower power build. He has caught up in power, and he's going to do pretty much the same thing as Mephi. Get a... Well, does he have enough power to do that? I don't know if he does. He probably needed a little bit more power generator-ness before he started that air factory. How is his power situation? Let's just have a little bit of a look. It is in the positive still, so he should be okay. He has got another grid. Here's those fabulous grids of giantly spaced out Tech 1 power generators once again. Alright, he is going to be sitting on just a reasonable balance of power there, and he is going to get an interceptor, interestingly enough, to try and combat any bombers that he thinks might be coming across from Mephi. And we just misclicked on the game speed there, which is all the wrong thing we wanted to do. Alright, so we have got the edge builds going down for Mephi, so he has got 1 land factory. His air factory still a long ways off though, so looks like Voodoo going on the defensive in the air game, but Mephi way behind and even getting his air production up. He is focusing on edge building these factories and getting the engineers out across the map, and we can see that he's already managed to actually get a mech marine right across into Voodoo's area here for expansion, and so far no combat units there for Voodoo, so that is going to take down the engineer pretty handily. That is not looking good. In fact, I don't think there's a single combat unit for Voodoo on the map yet, unless of course you count an interceptor as an air combat unit. Meanwhile, there is a little string of guys coming across from Mephi's base, so Mephi looking to be very much the aggressor in this one. He is going to try and take it to Voodoo and stop him expanding. If he can block this expansion down here, that is going to cut off a vital supply of mass. And even if he can stop this one, actually he's moved the mech marine away. He got sick of waiting, and unfortunately he's headed off. He's going to skirt right around all of the engineers, and he is going to pick up very little in the way of kills. Maybe he'll get one of these reclaiming engineers in the back. Wow, that's not particularly fantastic at all. Alright, have we got any counter raids from Voodoo? No, he still has no combat units, still nothing. He's getting another land factory down here. He is moving up with that ACU. He's going to come across and try and counter that, but at the moment he is pretty much at the mercy of these raids. He has got nothing to be able to counter those. He does have a decent amount of intel. He should be able to see what's coming across the map at him, but I just don't think he's got anything to counter that with. He does actually have a bomber, so that is going to be a little bit useful. Is there an interceptor out? No, there's ground-based AA, so Mephi opting to grab an archer out of that factory, and that's going to help just ward away those interceptors, which are just hovering over the top to try and take out any interceptors, just like this guy here, that might be popping out. Alright, and that is going to free up the bomber over here to indiscriminately take out units there from Mephi. That takes out the engineer. That's going to slow down the expansion a little bit. Where is he going next? Is he heading up the top here? Yes, he has correctly guessed that there is an engineer out on expansion duty for Mephi this way. If he can pick that up, and it looks like he will because he's got an interceptor in the zone, there is not much there from Mephi to stop him. He is going to try and get it in. There is a dodge. Yes, there a dodge comes in from Mephi. Keeps the engineer alive for at least one more pass. And unfortunately, the interceptor here for Voodoo is completely out of place. And that is not going to go so well at all. And oh, unfortunately for Mephi, he manages to get the interceptor in to take out the bomber. That is just about to go down in a second. but the engineer does go down. The Dodge cannot save its life, and that means he's going to have to walk an engineer all the way back from his main base here. That is going to take some time. That's going to slow him down just a little bit, but the saving grace for Mephi is that Voodoo hasn't got any units across here either, so the raids over here that Mephi got in, took out a couple of engineers, that's just slowed Voodoo down, and I'm not sure if Voodoo really had any plans for that expansion anyway, so that does mean that these guys are pretty even in terms of the map control, not managing to grab this extra expansion yet. But what is with the scoreboard there? The map control may be fairly even, but Mephi sitting on 35 mass per tick and 21 to Voodoo, so that is a pretty significant advantage. He has got these extra 5 mass extractors in here, and that is going to be the extra 10 mass per tick that Mephi has right now. Mephi is going to have to be a little bit careful that he doesn't lose that to Voodoo's ACU. I'm not sure exactly what the plan is here though, because Voodoo's ACU is going to be very, very exposed. There's probably not enough of a T1 army in any one place at this time to be able to challenge his ACU, but still, that is a very, very forward and exposed ACU. In fact, these guys, no, they're not Cybran. I was going to suggest that a Jester could be the end of such a maneuver, but being UEF versus UEF, we have absolutely zero chance of Jesters on the field. Alright, Mephi being nice and aggressive over here, he is going to come out, he's taking out the engineer that is expanding over towards that side of the map. He's got plenty of tanks online. I'm not sure that he's got enough to quite punch through into the production here, though there is probably pretty even numbers, and given the production is so close for Voodoo, he probably can hold it. But interestingly, Voodoo not making a play for the center whatsoever, and Mephi, he's just rolling on in. He takes out the point defense. Actually, was there any point defense? I don't even see any wrecks for point defense. So he takes everything out, and he's going to take that quantum gateway all of his own. Ouch, that is going to hurt Voodoo's economy hugely, because there is such a massive stack of mass sitting in that thing, and Mephi's going to get it all to himself, and that is just about dead. It's down to 3k HP out of 10k. That is going to be turning into mass for Mephi's coffers any second now. That is a big problem for Voodoo. He has managed to catch up. He's sitting on 29 mass per tick, managed to do enough damage to Mephi's economy just to even that up. Both of those guys sitting on 29 mass per tick, and that's because he actually took these mass extractors here with his ACU, so very cheeky. And in a similar cheeky fashion, an engineer comes out here from Mephi, although he didn't actually spot that they were being rebuilt. He just sent that engineer on a rebuild mission, and those orders are getting cancelled as soon as it tries to start, and down that engineer goes. So unfortunately for Mephi, not able to retake that position, but the center is actually looking really, really dangerous here. Mephi is on the move. He is pulling in mass as he sees fit whenever he needs a little bit more to top up his storage, and that is the last of the quantum gateway. So that is looking terrible in terms of reclaim figures for these guys. So Mephi sitting on, wow, not a particularly great power situation because he has an abundance of mass, but 5,900 mass reclaimed so far, and wow, 7,200 for Voodoo. So despite the lack of getting the quantum gateway, he still has been absolutely scooping up a ton of mass. Looks like a bit of a move on the right hand side here from Voodoo. He's going to back up that ACU just to make sure he gets into a nice safe position, because there are starting to be the numbers on the field of T1 units that can actually do a significant amount of damage, and it looks like a T1 point defense is going to try and hold the line here. This is like a last stand, and I don't know that there is enough here. There are enough Medusas, Lobos. I assume Medusas because these guys were Cybran, but for some reason they're UEF. In any case, there's enough Lobos there to pretty quickly reduce that T1 point defense to rubble, and that is going to give Mephi the opportunity to just push on through. There is a really sparse band of T1 here for Voodoo, just backing on up, really not able to consolidate much of a defense at all. We can see a stack of emergency point defense going down there for Voodoo. He doesn't know what to do about this. He may just have the numbers coming out of his factories. It looks like he's pulled all of his factory waypoints into the center here. He may actually be able to get enough out of the factories. He does have 55 mass per tick. Is that reclaim? He's just had a massive bump up. If it isn't, that is going to be a lot of production coming out of a lot of factories. In fact, how many factories is that? That is, wowzers, that is 15 land factories all pumping out T1 units. That is a pretty significant stack, and that's going to push Mephi right back, and Mephi actually finds himself sandwiched between a couple more blocks of units, and there's actually Voodoo's ACU as well. So Voodoo just coming in here trying to tip the balance of power with his ACU just to kill as much T1 as he can. And those units are all, well, that is a nice chunk of reclaim. Voodoo already doing fantastically well in the reclaim game, and this is just feeding him even more. So Mephi was looking extremely dangerous there. He was thinking about pushing right through into the center of the production here and being able to take out a lot of Voodoo's infrastructure, but that just hasn't happened. Voodoo managed to pull enough T1 together to push him back, and that is the end of that push. Mephi just thinking about coming around the right hand side. He is aware though that the ACU for Voodoo is in that position, so that is not going to be a particularly fantastic place to push. Looks like Mephi is focusing mostly on the center. We can see all the waypoints from these factories all headed towards the center. That actually is opening up a little bit of a gap on the sides here. So we've got around the top here, we've got a bunch of T1 units and a lone engineer desperately trying to build a wall, a great wall of Certus Major to keep out the Mongolians, but that's not going to be in time. That is going to fail, and that is the end of that. On the bottom here, there is enough T1 online for Voodoo to be able to deal with these couple of raids coming in from Mephi. Mephi's still doing a great job of pushing and prodding in different places, so he's coming across the bottom here, and that actually frees him up in the center a little bit to push forward with his ACU, because he has distracted this army that was with Voodoo's ACU. That does mean that the ACU is a little bit light on protection now for Voodoo. Both these guys staying pretty healthy on the majority of their max HP. Actually, it looks like Voodoo got a single rank of veterancy, puts him on 13k HP, and Mephi still just sitting on a stock standard 12k UEF ACU. Okay, so Voodoo does manage to dispatch that raid there from Mephi. That is going to have to back on up though, because there are a number of units coming around the top there, and there's still this crowd of guys here with Mephi. Now, if I was Mephi, I would be a little bit concerned right now, because he doesn't have a lot of places he can run with his ACU. If he loses this big lot of units that he's got up here, which is a real possibility with the ACU in the mix there for Voodoo, if he loses that, he could find himself sandwiched between this group of units down here and these groups up here from the north, and that could potentially catch Mephi out. Even right now, if he's going to back up, he still has to push his way through these units, and that's still something you don't want to do. You don't want to unnecessarily lose HP on your commander. You may open yourself up to a little bit of a snipe, especially if there is a T2 gunship snipe, and that is exactly what Voodoo is thinking about. He has made the shift to T2, and he is thinking about coming in and killing that, and that is going to just mean that Mephi does not have a lot of options for getting the heck out of there. Voodoo has got a lot of T1 interceptors. How many interceptors are online for Mephi? Well, approximately 0. And that is not a good number to have, because that means these interceptors are going to just trundle around through the skies, knocking out anything that you try, and there are half a dozen Tech 2 gunships laying fire into your ACU. That is a losing proposition for Mephi. That is GG. I believe there is absolutely nothing. There is no flak, and we can see a GG going up there from Mephi. He knows that he has been caught with his pants down. He is going to go up in a fiery ball of explosion in just a moment. There we go. So there we have it. That is the that puts Voodoo on top with 3 matches to 2. Alright, well, that was a very nice play. So we saw a couple of air snipes there, so we're maybe seeing a little bit of the effect of that cheaper T2 air that gave Voodoo the option to just quickly grab T2, get some gunships, get some Corsairs in the previous match, and get a snipe on Mephi. So Mephi just leaving his ACU a little bit too exposed. He really had nowhere to go. He had no anti-air with him. He should have been very concerned. He should have been pulling that ACU well back to safety. Maybe even getting some T1 AA at the very least to try and help him out. But unfortunately, it was not to be. Voodoo managed to come back, and he has showed us just how unrusty he has become in a very short space of time. He has done fantastically well. He takes out the series 3 matches to 2, of course disregarding that dirty draw that we have that we don't talk about, even though I'm talking about it. So that is a win for Voodoo. That is the end of the series. Congratulations to Voodoo. Congratulations to both these guys for some fantastic play. And this is probably probably just getting in a little bit of practice, of course, for the Legend of the Stars tournament. So I'll throw in a quick plug right now, and actually I'll put my little graphic up again. So this is Supreme Commander Forged Alliance. This is the Forged Alliance Forever mod and multiplayer client. We have an end-of-year tournament coming up in December with a pretty significant prize pool, especially for Forged Alliance Forever. It's a $500 first prize, and I think there's a $700 total prize pool, which not as big as something like Dota 2, but it is still pretty awesome to see. And we've got a lot of fantastic players coming out of the woodwork. They are coming back in some cases to try and get some of their grubby little hands on that cash. And there's actually a trophy as well that I think Zoc had, a funny clear pointy thing, and that is up for grabs for the winner as well. We have the next qualifying tournament for Legend of the Stars next weekend. That's going to be hosted on, I believe, Jagged Appliances channel on Twitch. That is going to be another fantastic tournament. It will be putting another 3 or 4 players through to the 16 positions that we have in the final tournament. That is going to be one heck of a tournament, so put it in your calendars now. I believe it's around the 17th of December. We will confirm those dates exactly, though, before it happens, and that is going to probably be stretched over a couple of days because it is just such a massive amount of raw talent beating each other down in hopes of winning that 500. Well, actually, it's Australian dollars, so they are dollary dues. So 500 dollary dues up for grabs. Alright, thank you for watching. I'll sign off now, and I will see you next time. So it won't be with the next Legend of the Stars, but we'll maybe have some more in between now and that finals tournament. Otherwise, I will see you then. Alright, thank you, and have a good night or morning or day or evening or whatever it is for you.